The orbital sensors of the Drectari Armada were calibrated to detect everything: hyperwarp displacements, pulse field echoes, even gravitational micro-ripples left by cloaked vessels. Nothing could approach without being catalogued, flagged, and interrogated, and yet something did. It arrived between frames. One moment Sector 314 was empty, the next something was there, a shadow, a silhouette, unregistered, no arrival flash, no drive signature, just presence. High Marshal Krez Vornal stood on the command bridge of the dreadnought Kargek's Dominion, staring at the screen with all 6 eyes, narrowing in disbelief. "Sensor error," he hissed. "No, sir," replied the data officer, his crest feathers twitching. "Multiple confirms. No warp disturbance, no known configuration. It just appeared. Origin unknown. Designation unknown." The Marshal clicked his mandibles. "Then make it known." The screen zoomed. The object was angular, built like a wedge cleaved from a black sun. No insignia, no movement, but it wasn't dead. It was watching. The bridge dimmed. Power loss. Krez barked. "Negative, sir. Power is—" The officer stopped. "Sir, it's bleeding into them." "What?" "They're drawing from our grid. Our local space is leaking." That was the moment Krez knew. This was not an enemy fleet. This was a statement, and it had arrived uninvited. AVD spike. All across the sector, Drectari cruisers went into high alert mode. Targeting arrays spun up, shield matrices surged, then something terrifying happened. Every ship's telemetry synced, not by design, by force. The alien object, no, the warship, was linking them. One dreadnought captain screamed through the open. "Channel, we're being pulled into formation. I didn't authorize this. Our ships are repositioning." The Marshal turned to his comms officer. "Block the link. Firewall everything." "We can't." "What do you mean you can't?" "I mean it's talking in code we don't understand. It's using our own systems like they were built for it." Krez stared at the black ship again. No name, no lights, no sound, just gravity that didn't obey rules and protocols that bent around it like Warship. And then the broadcast came. Not in Galactic Common, not in any language. A visual, a battlefield. From a forgotten time, ash, sky burned red, and a flag Terran. The image zoomed into a crater. A single soldier lay motionless. Then his hand twitched, and that twitch looped again and again. The broadcast ended, and every ship's primary screen now displayed one word, a name, Resolute. Marshal Krez's voice dropped to a whisper. "Terran?" One of the bridge officers nodded slowly. "It matches an old tag, human registry, pre-collapse." They were wiped out. We thought they were. The Resolute rotated slightly, not to threaten, to look. Its bow turned toward the Kargek's Dominion and stared. There were no weapons charged, no message sent, and yet the entire dreadnought crew felt it. Pressure, guilt, recognition, a sense of being known. One engineer backed away from his console. "It's measuring us," Krez snapped. "All batteries lock on target." The AI declined. The ship spoke instead. Through the speakers, through the metal, through them. "You forgot us. You declared war, and then silence. We do not shout. We arrive. AVD spike." On the outer rim of the sector, a mining vessel drifted unnoticed. Until now. The Resolute pulsed once. The vessel shut down instantly. No explosion, no wreckage, just nothing, as if that ship had never existed. Krez turned to the tactical officer. "I want a disruptor cannon charged to full—" "It is," the officer stammered. "Then fire." The main weapon lit up. The entire bridge watched as the pulse lanced toward the Resolute. It struck. Nothing. No shield shimmer. No hull ripple. The energy bent around it. Redirected into vacuum. The laws didn't apply. They had brought physics to a philosophy. Krez's voice broke. "What is that thing?" A new voice answered from the command channel. "Human, clear, confident. You believed Terran warships couldn't exist anymore." A pause. You were half right. Inside the Resolute, Commander June Talek watched the alien fleet from her command deck. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She simply observed. The ship responded to her pulse. Every breath adjusted its rhythm. Every blink synced with the vessel's cognition. It wasn't a battleship. It was a lesson. How many? She asked. The AI replied, 12 ships remain. 5 no longer hold command structure. And the rest? Learning. She touched a control node. We taught them distance. Let's show them scale. The Resolute didn't move, but the fade stars behind it warped. Not bent, warped. An artificial horizon formed, a ring of cold, gravitational silence. A Drektari officer screamed over the channel, "They're making a void well out of nothing. That's not, it can't." Then the voice returned, human again, still calm. "You asked why we were gone. You asked why we never came back. You mistook stillness for weakness. And now you will learn the difference between silence and absence." Marshal Kress fell into his chair. No words, no orders. He just stared at the screen as the ship turned once more. Not toward him, but away, as if it had made its point. And all that was left was for them to remember. They thought. It was mercy. It wasn't. It was a reminder. And it had only just begun. The Empire's naval channels were in meltdown. Within 40 minutes of the Resolute's arrival, 12 confirmed fleet formations had gone silent. Not destroyed, not jammed, just silenced. And not even the silence of war. It was the silence of disqualification. The Terran warship didn't strike first. It didn't strike at all. Yet every admiral knew they had already lost something far more vital than territory or ships, their authority. In the Drektari capital command chamber, Supreme Strategist Zhur Lan stared at the live feed of Sector 314. Resolute floated alone in open space, motionless, untouchable. Around it, ghosts of a once-proud armada now slowly trying to retreat, engines flickering, command signals looping on themselves. Officers in the field reporting systems, locking them out of their own ships. The Resolute wasn't engaging, it was editing. "Where did they find this thing?" Zhurlan hissed. One of the data archivists replied, "It's not new. Scans indicate carbon scoring consistent with the third outer collapse." "You're telling me it survived that long?" "No, Supreme Strategist," the archivist said. "I'm saying it remembered that long." That word, remembered, it felt sharp now, like a blade they had once used proudly, now being held against their throat. Out in the debris field of the shattered Drektari interceptor wing, a salvage crew aboard the utility frigate Hex Stalker attempted to extract a broken flight recorder. The team leader, Lieutenant Garin, hovered in his exosuit near the twisted wreckage. "Pull the core block now," he said. The technician nodded and did as told, and that's when they heard it. The black box started talking. No activation, no power-up sequence. It just began to play. From nowhere, through their helmets, their suits, their bones, a whisper. And then, "We built engines out of memory. We built hulls out of guilt. You erased us." So we turned absence into architecture. Garin froze. The technician dropped the recorder. It didn't fall. It floated in place, perfectly still in 0G, and then it began to glow. The same white pulse they had seen radiate beneath the Resolute's hull. "Get back to the ship," Garin said, shaking. "Get back right now." Too late. The recorder exploded. No fire, just a spherical ripple. The Hex Stalker's lights went out. Back in orbit, one of the surviving commanders, Vex Kroll of the Vengeance Caste, tried to regain control of his ship's systems. The Resolute had disabled every major offensive protocol, except one, the comms array. So he used it. "This is Commander Kroll of the Empire's 7th Spine. We demand communication. If you are Terran, if that is what you claim, then explain. Yourself." A delay, then a voice. Not Elias Thorne, not Commander Talek. A child, young, human, sincere. You don't recognize us, but we've always recognized you. You taught us war. You showed us what it means to be forgotten. Now you are forgotten, and we remember everything." Kroll shut the channel. He turned to his bridge crew. "It's not a warship. It's not even a vessel." They waited. He looked up, sweat beading under his eyes. "It's a ghost, and we built it. In the Drectari War College archives, buried in a sealed wing marked Human Conflict Debrief, Era 4. A junior historian named Krylos Vex scrolled through relics of past campaigns. Something didn't match. The Empire's official records showed complete victory over Earth and its colonies, but in each file, each world, there was always one pattern: final telemetry blackouts that lasted exactly 6.3 seconds, no data, no response, across 19 planetary theaters, each time. The same blind spot. Krylos Vex overlaid them together. They formed an identical shape, the silhouette of a ship, one ship, the Resolute. It had always been there, watching, waiting, not dormant, deliberate. He whispered to himself, "They never rebuilt. They never rose. They just waited for the galaxy to forget. Then they returned to remind it." In the civilian net across Drectari space, fragments of the broadcast began leaking. First, isolated incidents. Freight crews seeing messages on hull. Plating printed in ancient Terran English. "We are not here for war. We are here for clarity." Then deep space mining rigs reporting strange gravitational wave interference. The anomalies spelled shapes, letters, names. Every system affected was a site where humanity had once bled, each reactivated by the presence of the Resolute. A monument that moved, a war memorial that could fly. In her command chair, June Talik observed the starfield ahead. Her eyes were calm, focused. "How long?" she asked the AI. 72 minutes until response fleet arrives." "Composition?" "Full suppression wing. 8 dreadnoughts, 2 plague corps, 9 carrier phalanxes." "And?" The AI paused, as if thinking. "Insufficient." She nodded. "Good." The AI hesitated. "June, what?" "They still think we want their systems." "We don't." "They still think we want to win." "We don't." "Then what do we want?" She closed her eyes. "Witnesses." Out past the Drectari border in the dark space between nav beacons, the Imperial fleet began to gather. Final push, full retribution. It wasn't just protocol, it was legacy. They couldn't not respond. Not when their authority was evaporating sector by sector. They needed a victory, a symbol, a scalp. The Resolute wasn't a ship to them, it was an offense, and it was waiting for them, just beyond the Olirex drift. No motion, no challenge, but still there. The lead commander of the fleet, Warlord Zenk of the Null Claw, prepared his address. To the remaining systems, he would deliver it after the Resolute was burned, but just before the jump, he paused. The stars around the Resolute had shifted. The system map showed nothing, but his eyes told him the truth. The ship wasn't alone anymore. Nothing warped in, nothing blinked. But the stars aligned into shapes, into routes, paths traced by ancient Terran navigation patterns. Zenk froze. The bridge AI spoke first. "Sir, we have a philosophical anomaly." "Explain," he said quietly. "The ship is not signaling danger. It is expecting." Zenk's last recorded words were quiet. "They're not preparing for war. They're preparing for memory." The Resolute pulsed once. Every jump drive in the enemy fleet glitched, then glowed and jumped, but not into battle, into their own past. Every captain, every ship, thrown into data storm hallucinations of the wars they started, the planets they glassed. The cities they mocked, the children they orphaned. For 60 seconds, they were forced to live as humans once lived. Every pain, every fear, every loss, they came back changed. And when they came back, the Resolute was gone. Only a final message remained, broadcast into the DNA of every AI, etched into metal across half the fleet. You feared our return, but we never left. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. It was memory. And it lives now. Inside you, Sector 2204 was never known for war. It was a resource zone, quiet, steady, the kind of region the Drectari Empire barely watched anymore. Just enough naval presence to give the miners confidence and keep pirates in line. That changed. The moment the signal hit, not a distress call, not a threat, just a 3-second burst across every frequency on every channel. A static-laced whisper, then a pulse, then a single word, encoded in every known language, resolute. The sector command staff laughed it off at first, glitch, perhaps an old war relic flaring up, until the stars around the command station began to rearrange. Not move, rearrange. As if reality itself had bent, making way for something. The Resolute did not appear with thunder, it did not roar. It materialized, right above the sector core, without mass transition signatures, without warp echoes. It wasn't cloaked, it was not. There, and then it was. Mining ships abandoned their operations. Command crews forgot their drills. One officer simply stood from his station and walked outside the hull in a suit just to get closer to it. There it hung, sharp, black, unyielding, with no insignia, no windows, just weight. Below it, the sector's dreadnought Valor of Scale moved slowly into position. Its captain, Han Velik, had served during the Terran erasure campaigns. He knew the stories. He thought they were fiction. Now he saw the fiction looking back. He tapped the comms. Identify yourself. You are in Drectari-regulated space. Transmit credentials, or you will be fired upon. Silence. Then a transmission. An old voice, gravel-thick, human-accented, full of something too calm to be fear. Credential received. Status returned. The bridge went cold. One of Velik's junior officers whispered, "That voice, sir, it's matching a record from 200 years ago." Impossible. "No, sir. Confirmed. It's Commander Elias Thorne." Elias Thorne's been dead for centuries. Apparently not. The Resolute pulsed again. A new signal spread, but this one didn't go through communications. It went through systems, and then deeper. The Valor of Scale's hull plating changed. No fire, no sparks, just symbols, glowing faintly in ancient Terran. Runes, etched across the metal as if always there, just waiting to be revealed. The word, remember. Velik took one step back, then another, and then the dreams started. Not just him, the entire crew. Each one saw flashes, real or hallucinated. No one could tell. A Terran child watching their city burn, a starship being welded together by hand, in the dark, by people too tired to speak. A funeral held in zero gravity. Bodies buried in asteroid belts. A whisper. "We will return when they forget us, and not a moment sooner." AVD spike. The Resolute didn't fire, but the entire power grid of the Valor of Scale collapsed. Not just overloaded, it rerouted. The dreadnought became its own prison, locked into orbit, unable to retreat. Above, the Resolute shifted, but not toward. Aggression toward memory. The sector control AI panicked. Drectari protocol dictated immediate full-sector lockdown, EMP bursters, dimensional disruptors, even quantum flare mines. None activated. They had all already fired. One by one across the system, devices detonated in storage. Before orders, before thought. The Resolute wasn't reacting. It was preempting. Commander June Talek stood on her bridge, eyes closed. The ship's AI flooded her senses. With tactical readouts, heat maps, power spikes, everything was under control. More than control. Narrative. "We are entering Phase 3, the AI said. She opened her eyes. Witness state. triggered on all nodes. Observers now include enemy vessels, planetary nets, 5 off-sector probes, and 2 ancient relays just outside Milchar Phi. She turned to face the forward screen. "Show them," the ship responded. The forward hull split open, not in aggression but in exposure. Inside, not weapons, memories. Thousands of holographic fragments flooded into space, spinning, floating, lighting the void. They were pieces of the human past, scans of childhood drawings, photos of cities before they were glassed, battlefield logs, heart, monitors, journal entries, a love letter. The voice of a mother saying goodbye. Each fragment played only once and then vanished. But not before leaving one message in the minds of all who watched. "This is what you erased." The sector fleet did not engage. They couldn't. Their ships no longer accepted commands. Pilots wept in silence. One tried to fire manually. The controls melted in his hands. The Resolute finally spoke again, a broadcast calm and patient. War was not against us. It was against your memory of us. You thought we were broken. You never considered we were waiting. And then the stars shifted again. One more ship appeared, not like the Resolute, sleeker, smaller, unarmed. Its name lit up gently across the hull. Serenity. It was unmanned. No crew. Just a vault. Inside, records. Terran archives. Peace treaties the Empire had ignored. Diplomatic signals they had buried. A single Drektari communications officer, driven by instinct, accepted the open channel. What he saw wasn't a demand, it was a gift. All the peace Earth had once offered, and the data showing the Empire rejected it. Every time, the Empire hadn't won the war. It had refused the peace for centuries. Now the bill had come due. Back aboard the Resolute, the AI spoke. "All observers have seen the transmissions. Would you like to close the chapter?" June Talik stepped forward. "No, why?" She raised her eyes to the black beyond. "Because they still don't know why we didn't fire." The ship paused. "Then show them." A final image pulsed across the system. A field, grass dot Earth's surface. A child running through flowers, alive. The voice of Elias Thorne echoed across the channel one last time. "We could have ended everything. We built the means to do so, but we didn't return to finish the war. We returned to end it." The Resolute powered down. Every ship in the sector released from control. Not one pursued. They couldn't. What would you chase? A story, a lesson, a ghost. No Terran warship had ever behaved like this. No Terran commander had ever said so little and shown so much. And as the Resolute vanished again, without fire, without sound, without consequence, it left behind the most terrifying thing imaginable. The truth. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. It was restraint. And that's what made it invincible. The stars above Drektari Prime had always burned bright, victorious, glowing beacons of empire, each one a reminder of conquest, of colonies bent to the will of a species that believed it had mastered war. But tonight they were dim, not in light, in certainty. In the capital war chamber, Supreme Strategist Jurlan stood before the central display. It no longer showed tactical formations, no markers, no mission objectives, only a single still image. The Resolute, captured as it drifted silently through the debris of the sector's once proud defense fleet. No battle, no declaration. It had moved like a punctuation mark across a galactic sentence. Too long ignored, the strategist's advisors spoke in hushed tones now. Not about retaliation, not about escalation, but about meaning. "What do they want?" one asked. No one answered, because that had become the question echoing across the entire Drektari Empire, from outposts to citadels, military to civilian. The same transmission looped everywhere now. Not a threat, not even a warning, a message. "You thought war was fire, we made it silence. You thought war was victory, we made it memory." Every voice that answered back, every protest, every challenge was ignored. The Terrans were no longer listening, because they'd already spoken, and the galaxy had heard them. On board the Resolute, June. Talik sat alone in the viewing chamber. No lights, no crew. Just her heartbeat, the hum of the ship, and the dark. The AI spoke softly. "The last fleet has withdrawn." She said nothing. Signals are quiet across all sectors. They will not follow. Still, she didn't move. "They're asking who we are." She exhaled, slow and tired. "Good." The AI paused. "Do you want them to know?" "No," she said. "I want them to wonder." The ship pulsed gently beneath her feet like a heartbeat, like Earth itself still beating in steel. "Upload the last archive," she said finally. "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Even the final sequence?" She nodded. The data cube, stored deep within the ship's archive vault, activated. Hundreds of years of war logs, testimonies, final messages, regrets, designs, the entirety of the Terran legacy condensed into one capsule. The Resolute had never been a warship. It had always been a carrier of truth. And now it would become a monument. "Target," the AI asked. She pointed at the Galactic center. "Let them find it, on their terms." "Understood." The Resolute set its final course. It would go dark after release. No transponder, no echo. It would drift until someone found it or didn't. But if they did, they would see the truth they buried under fire and conquest, the humans they erased still speaking from beyond silence. Atop Drektari Prime, a boy looked to the sky and pointed. A black shape crossed the stars, slow, steady, silent. His mother pulled him back. "Don't look," he asked. "Why?" "Because that ship is not here to be seen." She couldn't explain it. No one could. It was as if the Resolute carried more than weapons or humans or vengeance. It carried judgment, a reminder that war wasn't the absence of peace. It was the failure of memory, and now that memory had a name. Again. Terran. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. It was their final lesson, and it arrived out of nowhere, just like it always had, and always would, until they remembered.